It's Wednesday. It's hump day. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm totally stoked. I've got a new local beer in my hand, a tall boy from Oskaloosa, Iowa, brew in town. I've got Uncle Larry REEB on the phone, one of my favorites from way back in the day to work with, to watch perform on stage. Hey, Uncle Lair, dude, you've got a sold out crowd waiting for you in Clinton, Wisconsin at Boxcars Pub and Grub next Wednesday, December 5th.
Of course. And they thought I couldn't draw in Clinton. That's right. I've been there before. That's a great gig.
They love me there.
Someone just said something to me. They go, "You ever work Clinton, the boxer?" That they do it right there. That's a good one night gig. One of the best.
You know, personally, and I know I'm biased, but I personally believe it to be one of the best weekday one-nighters in the entire country.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, especially in the Wednesday? It's great. Yeah, it'd be great if it was a Saturday, but yeah, it's set up. Well, you know how to do it. I'm not stroking you, but because you're a comedian, you go out. Usually do the first show, right? You go out, tell them how to do it, set it up right, show them how to do it, and that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and I kind of scouted out to make sure it's not going to be complete bedlam for any other comedians that might roll in. You know, I don't mind standing there between a dartboard and a pool table and telling dick jokes to alcoholics. But if I'm going to send the comedy legend Uncle Larry REEB in there, I want that place to be a diamond in the rough.
Right. And that's the way that, some of these, I'm not going to name names, but I was doing this one guy somewhere in Michigan, and he calls me like 2 days later. He goes, "Did you call that place a shithole?" I'm like, "Probably." I'm not sure, but I probably did because it was. There was no stage. There was no lights. And the sound system was one of those little tiny karaoke machines. That was the sound system. I'm like, "If you don't want me to call it a shithole, set it up right."
Yeah.
And he's like, oh okay. And then he couldn't argue. He still booked me after that. It was like, do it right or don't do it.
Well, you had a point, man. It's kind of hard to argue with that. No lights and a karaoke machine for the legendary Larry REEB.
The feature was on. I was by the bar. You couldn't even hear him. It's like, what's the point of this?
Have you had very many hell gigs in your time?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Of course. Yeah. Many of them.
What pops out in your head?
Well, that was one of them. Well, I've been in a lot of bad. It's usually the setups are just bad, like that. They don't have it set up right. Yeah. Oh, you'll do private shows. I mean, when I first started, some guy hired me private. I show up. There was no sound, nothing. I'm like, well, what do you say? He goes, "Just stand in the middle of the room and do it while we eat our dessert." It's like, well, you can't do that. You can do it, but it's not going to be good,
Yeah, no, I talked about that yesterday on my video, why I don't really do a whole lot of company parties or corporate events anymore. They have content restrictions, and a lot of times they want you to perform while they're eating, which is always a disaster waiting to happen. You're just set up to fail, because one thing they're definitely not doing while they're shoveling food in their mouth is fucking laughing. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't laugh when you're eating, and it's noisy. I mean, there's clubs that do that. Like there's improvs and stuff. Their early show, they'll have a Saturday night show, the early show, and they serve steak dinners. And the MC is just, he's a sheep to slaughter. He goes up there, they're all eating, cling, clang. Yeah, you can't have stuff in your mouth to laugh. You got to have nothing in your mouth, and you got to listen. That's how it works.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe a little bit of finger food here or there just to soak up some of the booze, but anything that requires utensils should definitely be outlawed during a comedy show.
Right. Yeah, no, finger food's fine. Yeah, it's anything with the, full steak dinners or chicken dinners. It's like, it's crazy.
Tim Pogorowski checking in from Boxcars Pub and Grub right now. He's watching live, and he actually wrote a comment. "Uncle Lair, you've been sold out for 3 weeks, dude. They're so pumped and excited." And I am super stoked just to be talking to you on the phone right now, because I remember watching you before I even thought about doing comedy on the Rodney Dangerfield Young Comedian special.
Oh yeah, yeah, you saw that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
People still talk about it. I still get people that come up to me and go, I saw that when I was 12 or 13 and I could never go to a comedy club. And so now they can go, they come.
yeah, and that was your, I think, the first comedian I had seen live in a comedy club when I was finally old enough to be allowed in. It was at the Des Moines Funny Bone, and I remember I would just graduated high school, and I had a lot of people write in my yearbook, you should be a comedian, you should be a comedian. And then my parents sort of pressured me to get a summer job, so I just called up the Funny Bone to, like, you would call up any, like, a job at McDonald's just to apply to be a comedian. I didn't know how it was done. I'm like, I want to, they go, yeah, come on down to the club. And I was just barely old enough to get in. They charged me for soda and chicken wings or fries or some shit. And I sat there and watched Larry REEB. And at the end of the night, they presented me with this huge bill, but no application on how to get into the comedy business.
Yeah, well, that's different. Oh.
But hey, welcome to comedy, right?
That's how. Yeah, I never knew how to do it. Did you grow up in a smaller? I grew up in a little small town.
So did I. Right outside of Des Moines, Iowa, real small farm town, Colfax, and there was the Des Moines Funny Bone. There was another club that was in the back of the Italian restaurant where I got my start hosting the shows every weekend. And that was pretty much it. Oh, Penguins is here. Penguins in Cedar Rapids. But you've been all over, dude. You've done them all. And I also got started in the early 90s when comedy, I didn't know it at the time, but comedy was dying a slow, painful death. But, you were around even the days during the glory times, and you're still out there kicking it, man. I see your schedule. You're out there touring the whole country, working every weekend. People fucking love Uncle Lair.
Yeah, I'm still doing it. I'm doing smaller places maybe now, but yeah, I hit the boom perfect. I started in 1977, and there was no club. There was just showcases in Chicago, New York, and LA. That was it. And there was 2 showcase clubs in Chicago. And so when the boom started in the middle 80s, I was already decent. I never went out MC, and I was right away featuring or headlining. I was right at the best time. So I got into that, and I got into all the Funny Bones and all that type of stuff. And so I was working, making really good money for a long time. So I was lucky that way.
Yeah, and that's.
But I didn't know how to start either. When I grew up in Dwight, Illinois, a little farm town, 90 miles south of Chicago, and I didn't know, there wasn't no internet. I didn't know there was any. I didn't know where to do it. Finally, a friend of my brother, said there was a little club in Lyons, Illinois, the suburbs. So I drove the 90 miles up there, and I got there. It was supposed to be Newtown night. I told Ted Holm, and he's like, all right, sit down, watch the show, and we'll get you up. So I'm watching, and that's the thing, I know it's 1 o'clock, they're closing the show. So I go up there, he goes, oh, I forgot about you. And everybody was leaving. It was upstairs. They were going downstairs. He called the people back, which was about 10 people, and he had them sit in the front, and he brought me up, and I did 5 minutes for 10 people, and that was it.
And that
and the rest is history. And then he was good to me after that. He says, I forgot about you. He goes, I'm an idiot. Come back next week. I'll get you up early. And that's what he did. So then he was good to me after that.
Right on. That's a great story, Matt. I love comics' first time story. And what made you want to get into stand-up to begin with? Who were some of your influences, or was it you were the class clown? How were you inspired to originally take the stage?
Well, my dad loved comedy, so, I used to sit and watch, I was growing up in the 60s. So we used to watch Ed Sullivan and Jackie Gleason and Red Skelton and all that. And I remember we loved Rodney Dangerfield when he come out. I mean, when I was a little kid, I loved he'd come out.
Yep.
I get no respect that time. And we used to crack us up. And then George Carlin, and I got my sister gave me that Class Clown album with the 7 words you can't say on television, and that was it. I thought that was the greatest. I loved him. And then I did a speech when I was about 15 in a speech class in high school,
Yeah.
and I got an A. They let me do whatever I wanted. I did a funny speech. I got an A. It's the only A I ever got in my whole life. And I'm, and I'm like, because I was like a CD student, and I'm like, that's it. That's what I want to do. So I got the balls to do it when I was about 19, and I've been doing it ever since.
Right on. We have a very similar story. One of my heroes growing up was also Rodney Dangerfield. And something that now that you bring that up, that I've noticed about your act that I can see the Dangerfield influence in is the economy of words when it comes to your jokes. Your jokes, they're very tight, they're crisp, they're clean, in the sense that it's bing, bang, boom. There's not a whole lot of talkity talk. I feel like I'll watch a lot of these new guys these days, and it's more like stand-up talkity talk. It's not stand-up comedy. I like the way you very much economize your words for maximum impact on the jokes. Is that something that you learned, or is that something you picked up? Is that something you worked on? Is that something that came natural?
No, I worked on that. I've thought to get to the joke as quick as I could. That's what I like. I don't like all that. It's like when people come up and tell you street jokes. They hem and haw on, this and just get
Yeah.
people tell you these street jokes. They take 5 minutes. I could tell the joke in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And some of these young guys they just do stories and they just go on. And there's like, no, if you're going to do a story, it's got to be funny all the way. Like Cosby, before he was a rapist or whatever, he was great at storytelling. That's hard to do, but he kept it funny the whole way, and then it had a big payoff. A lot of these guys, it's just a story. There's nothing funny, and then the payoff isn't even that funny. So it's like, you can get to stuff quick. To me, that's the way to do it. I kind of combine Rodney, that old style one-liner. But I can do it a lot sicker. I'm a lot sicker than they were because they couldn't be. So that's kind of like George Carlin's mixed in with that, or Lenny Bruce, where I get more sicker and more social with that. So I kind of combined the two.
That's another genius aspect of your show, I think, is it's a sick world and I'm a happy guy tagline, because it kind of gives you license to do all the politically incorrect material and references that you want, as long as you keep it funny, which of course you do. Comedy legend Larry REEB on the phone right now with me. I can't fucking believe it. And but you've always been saying, I think that's the name of one of your CDs. Even is It's a Sick World, I'm a Happy Guy. And as long as that's what you're known as. People should not expect anything less, anything other than politically incorrect, no holds barred comedy from Uncle Larry REEB. If he plays your place and it's a shithole, he'll call it a shithole.
The black sheep uncle, I'm politically, This political correct shit is the death of comedy. I mean, you can't do comedy and everybody's a victim. Every joke, you're making fun of something.
Correct.
Whether it's yourself or you're making fun of, that's what comedy is. You're making fun of stuff. So you can't do it and be politically correct.
No, I agree 100%. I love it. I also love one of these, a line that you said one time we were hanging out before a show, and you go, alternative comedy, what's that? Alternative to being funny?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's drama. That's the alternative.
Right. Oh, man.
Either you're funny or you're not. I never got that shit either. Alternative. Yeah, I never understood that.
What the hell is that? Do you keep a joke journal? How do you write daily? Do you make it up when you're on stage and just improvise it? What's your style for coming up with your jokes?
Oh no, I sit in. I'm not as. I was writing a little today, but I used to really do it. Try to do it every day. You should try to do it every day, and I just write it. And then when you get on stage, I like to talk to the crowd and stuff too, and you ad lib. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of jokes that way off of people and talk with people, say stuff, and you get jokes that you get it every way. But you really have to work, try to work on it and write and read stuff. And I used to always go to stuff when I was young. I used to go to museums and everything. I mean, you have to put stuff in your brain so you can have something to take out. You know, you got to do stuff. And when you're young, that's the problem. When you're real young, when I was 19, it's hard. You couldn't really relate to older people and stuff. You hadn't lived enough.
Right. There's not enough experience to draw from.
Right. Yeah. You have to. You need the information. You have to. So it's good to go out, and I used to go to all these crazy museums and different shit just to walk around. I used to love when I worked in like Philly and Boston. You'd be downtown. You could just walk around and observe people and see all kinds of shit. You know, it helps you read the paper, or read the internet, or whatever.
Yeah, it puts you in a situation where you're going to discover material, and it creates it's like creative stimulus in your brain.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And when you get married, like when I got married, I got a ton of new material. You know, I mean, I know you're married. As soon as you get married, you'll get a ton of shit just from the stuff your wife says to you, and you say to them, or if you have a kid, you know, that's where you're gonna get it.
Absolutely. There's only 3 things I really talk about in my act anymore. It's my wife, my kids, smoking pot, and partying.
There you go.
Jeff
them with
Lampton.
Your kids?
What's that?
Are you smoking them with your kids?
Well, you know, that's one of the bits that I do. But for the purposes of this live video on Facebook, absolutely not.
Yeah, there you go. Good answer.
Jeff Lampton, the loose cannon of comedy from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, says Uncle Larry's first piece of advice to me was not to wander around the showroom after the show and finish people's unfinished drinks.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I tell a lot of young people now, what should I do? I go, quit. Get out of the business. You're taking up my spots. Right? You can relate to that. There's so many comedians.
Yeah, that probably was your first advice to me as well, way back in the day.
Was it?
Yeah. Get out of the business. All the clubs are closing. You got no chance.
You're taking my spots. And then there's a lot of young people go, when's that Uncle Larry going to die so we can get his spot?
Yeah,
well, you've heard those stories. Have you ever heard those stories where some guy dies and then there'll be a comic that dies and then they find out where he's playing and then they call the club, hey, you need a replacement. I know in Omaha there was a magician, not a magician, a hypnotist, Medicine Hat, you know that guy?
Yes, Jay Medicine Hat.
Well, he was doing 12 weeks a year in Omaha. And when he died, like the next day, all these comics were calling to pictures. And anyone who called, she would never book again. That would be it. He was a friend of hers.
Well, but, you know, from a practical sense, those clubs still need those weeks filled. So what say you as far as the reasonable amount of time to wait before you call up to fill those weeks? Or do you just let the club do it on their own when they get, you know what I mean? Like, when's the too soon on sending your avails after the comic dies?
Well, you know how to do it? I'll tell you how to do it. Here's what I did, because I heard it. I knew he was a good friend of hers, so I just said I was sorry to hear he passed and all that, and that was it. I gave her my condolences, and that was it.
Sure.
And that's the way to do it. And then when they're looking, they're like, hey, by the way, do you have you just go, hey, I heard he's dead. Can I have his spot? Which a lot of guys did.
Right. What, too soon?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm going to wrap it up here in just a minute. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time because I know you're a busy man. You're traveling the country. I really appreciate it. You've got a sold-out crowd waiting for you. Capacity 60 people. Clinton, Wisconsin, Boxcars Pub and Grub. They set the place up like a comedy club. One of my favorite things that Tim does is Tim Pogorelski, Tim and Randy, they're at Boxcars. When you walk in, first of all, you drive into Clinton, Wisconsin, and it's like, it's small town. It's like Dwight, Illinois, Right. You're going to cross railroad tracks and drive through and park your car in gravel. And then you walk into the bar, and it's pretty nice little pub and grill, dartboard, pool table, all that when you first walk in. But you will, and they always do this to the comedians. They make them think that they're going to be using the karaoke machine and the next to the dartboard and the pool table. And Tim loves to get a kick out of watching just complete depression fall over the comic's face when they come to that. And then he walks them into the showroom right next door, and it's set up like basically like a miniature Funny Bone or miniature Improv, brick wall and everything. Big screen playing cartoons or Three Stooges or something like that. They have excellent wait service where they don't interrupt the show with a whole lot of loud drink orders. People write them down on pieces of paper and then turn them in, and then the waitress very quietly brings their drinks to them so it doesn't interrupt the show. It's more of like a listening room really than a crazy bar atmosphere. So they're gonna fucking love you, dude, and it is sold out, and I'm so excited. I really appreciate you going out to all these grassroots comedy tour shows that I set up in these small towns across the country, because like you said, you could walk into any of them. It could be a shithole. But I try to set you up with good places and good crowds that are going to love Uncle Lair.
No, yours are good. The ones I've done I've done the ones in Iowa and the one in Michigan. Those are really good. You set them up. They're set up good. People are there to hear a comedy show. And they usually if they have a separate, that's the key. If they got a separate room, you're made, because then they come to see the comedy. You don't got to deal with the drunk. You know, when you first do a lot of these places, if you're the first night, there'll always be the one drunk who thinks he's Mr. Funny, yelling and screaming at you, you know, always. But when you set it up right like that, then it's great, no problem.
Yeah, but you also got to send out guys such as ourselves that have the chops to deal with the one drunk and be able to go off the top of your head and ad-lib with the crowd. That's another thing that I also like about what you do. You're a joke writer, but you also can improvise in the moment.
Yeah, right. Well, I like that. Hecklers don't bother me at all. I have fun with it as long as it's not mean. You know, I like going back and forth. It's fun.
Yeah, I do too. That also a lot of times leads to new material for shows later on. I don't understand these guys that immediately start screaming and yelling at the hecklers and go total vitriolic beast mode on them. You know what I mean? I don't understand how like yelling at the guy is going to do anything to entertain the rest of the crowd or smooth over the situation.
Well, I've seen people they don't know how to work a crowd at all. They just like I've seen where they even like ask a question and somebody answers and then they start yelling at them and screaming at them. Like, well, you asked the question,
right? Yeah,
but
yeah.
They have their shit planned out and that's it, and they can't go away from what they have planned. But yeah, I ask people and they say something, and yeah, I've gotten a lot of bits off of that stuff like that. People say some funny shit.
Right. And then, you know, as comics, we can take that and add 3, 4, 5 more lines on it, or sometimes even run with it as a gag throughout the entire rest of the show. I treasure those moments. Those are what I call the diamonds, you know, the little treasures that you pick up where if you hadn't been in that moment, it would not have happened.
Well, I listen to, like in Chicago, the MCs at Zanies, they want them to go up and ask if there's birthdays, anniversaries, to get that out of the way. So I like to watch that because then they get names and towns, and then I go up and I use that shit all through the show. I play off of it, you know, because they'll get some weird guy or something. I play off that the whole show. It's fun to me. Keeps it loose and different.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely, dude. You're the bomb, dude. Uncle Lair, guys, he's going to be at Boxcars Pub and Grub, the flagship bar, the flagship venue of the Grassroots Comedy Tour. Dare I say, the best weekday one-nighter for stand-up comedy in the entire country. Tim and Randy do an amazing job. He's been sold out for 3 weeks, so if you don't have the ticket, you're fucked. Sorry. But man, we're just getting warmed up talking about comedy. I think we could go even deeper, and I've got you on more shows for the Grassroots Comedy Tour. Some of these places in Iowa and Michigan and Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, I think is one of them coming up. So let's do this again. What do you say?
Oh, yeah. I'd love to do it. It's fun talking to you, JerDog.
I agree. Thanks, man. I'll let you go. I'm going to wrap it up. Guys, thanks for watching, everybody. Hit me up in the comment section where you are watching from, and I will reply with where I'll be performing in that area. But I want to give shout out to Tim and Randy and everybody at Boxcars in Clinton, Wisconsin, and my guest today, Thanks for calling. Uncle Larry REEB, one of my childhood heroes. Not really child. I was probably like 14 or 15, maybe, when I saw you on Rodney Dangerfield's HBO special. And that's the type of comedy that I like to do too, dude. I'm very much influenced by guys like you and Dangerfield. And I consider you to be one of the original blue collar comedians before blue collar meant the Southern guys, you know, from Texas and Georgia, because you really do appeal to the everyday guy that works hard and plays hard.
Yep, I try to. That's where I come from. So that's what I try to appeal to.
And, you know, and not to suck up too much, but I emulate your style as well. I like to keep the jokes quick. I like to get to the laughs as fast as possible, but also keep it loose enough to ad-lib and create material on the fly with the crowd. So, man, dude, it's just been my honor to talk to you today. I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you, JerDog. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the work. Thank you very much.
We'll talk soon, man.
Right.
Thanks, guys, for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with Mike Marvell, the couch commander, Mike Marvell. Another one of my good friends on the Grassroots Comedy Tour. That will be at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or as close as possible. The 420 Report. Thanks for watching, guys. God bless America. That was awesome. Uncle Larry REEB. It's a sick world. I'm a happy guy.